Hello and welcome to The Winning Mentality with me, Charlie Bosco. Joining me today and making his second appearance on the podcast is skier, climber and mountain guide Tom Grant. Now, you might remember way back in episode 2 of this podcast, I chatted to Tom about his life and the amazing first ski descent he'd recently made on Mount Cook in New Zealand. Now, not long after that interview, he went from the highest of highs, being on top form, skiing and performing in the mountains better than ever, to a pretty brutal low. Skiing in the Italian town of Courmayeur, Tom hit some heavy old snow, got thrown backwards and completely tore his ACL, the anterior cruciate ligament. The ACL connects the thigh to the shin, basically, and is a key part of stabilising a knee. It runs diagonally through the knee and provides a huge amount of a knee's rotational stability. It's a small bit of kit, but particularly if you're a skier, a pretty vital one. For Tom, being a guide and a mountain person is his identity, and with an injury this serious, he's been denied the ability to do what he loves and what makes him who he is. And I wanted to chat to him to find out what the experience has been like, how his perception of his life and his career has changed, and what advice he'd give to anyone who finds himself in a similar situation. It's not been an easy ride, and still isn't, but there's some excellent insight, inspiration, and perspective from Tom in this chat. Tom, welcome back to the show, a two-time guest. That's a pretty exclusive club. The ACL, start out, explain to me what happened when you got the injury.
So back last January when I was skiing some powder in the trees, the snow was kind of funky and heavy, and I got thrown kind of strangely back seat in some really deep, heavy snow and tore my ACL clean off. So yeah, it didn't hurt so much at the time, and I was able to ski down, but I could tell something was seriously not right with my knee. And then the doctor I went to right away, who correctly diagnosed it immediately that it was an isolated full ACL tear. Luckily, no other damage to other bits of my knee, which is quite common when a lot of people tear their ACL. It's often meniscus and MCL damage too, but mine was just a complete ACL tear.
And what's it like when you get a diagnosis like that?
Yeah, it was pretty hard to stomach because I knew that my next year would look quite different, and that my season was probably over. Although I did try to resurrect my ski season, carry on skiing. It's a pretty common sports injury in professional football players, American football, skiing. But it's in the vein of a lot of athletes, and it's notoriously long to recover from. Although these days the operations are very good and you can make a full recovery, whereas back 15, 20, 30 years ago, it ends a lot of top athletes' careers. These days it's pretty. I mean, it's very, very standard among professional skiers. I'd say probably more professional skiers than not have had either at least one or multiple knee surgeries. And a lot of high-profile footballers have come back from knee surgery.
Well, what does the surgery actually involve? And, well, in fact, you've got a decision to make, haven't you? Because you don't even have to have the surgery, right?
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of people choose not to, and you can rehab the muscles and re-educate the knee so that you get back to maybe 90%, but it's very hard to ever be at 100%, or impossible for most people. So for me, I didn't like the feeling of having no ACL, and it also the muscles around my knee were starting to switch off and not be as active, even though I was spending a lot of time in the gym. I think some people can get away with it more than others. I mean, my knee still was quite strong and stable, so I skied 10 days after I tore it. I started skiing again, and it felt okay to ski. Like I could, as long as the skiing was on good even snow, I could ski pretty fine. But I was just nowhere near my normal level, and as soon as the snow got strange, or if I had to take a little jump or something, it really didn't feel so good at all. So it for me, it was pretty clear that I needed to have surgery, and I really wanted to get back to 100%, even if that meant a long recovery.
Okay, so just tell me exactly what it involves, because they take a slice of muscle off your hamstring.
Yeah. So yeah, they strip a bit of your a tendon from your hamstring off, and they're able to get some of my old ACL broken ACL bundles incorporated into the new one, which was really good. I think it's a pretty like brutal surgery for your knee. It's opened up in different places, and they have like kind of a meat stripper thing that strips some fibers from your hamstring. So I was offered an epidural, which was tempted to stay awake and see what was going on. Then I thought, I don't know, it sounds pretty gruesome. I'll just go for a full general anesthetic. And then when you wake up, it's pretty sore for a couple of days. But I found that after 2-3 days, I didn't really need to take any painkillers.
When I first chatted to you after this happened, I was really surprised to hear how long it was going to take you to recover, because naively, and not being a medical expert, I kind of thought, well, you've got the new ACL now, so why doesn't it just quickly get back to full strength?
As soon as you have surgery on your knee, a lot of the surrounding muscles, especially your quads, they immediately deactivate and start to waste pretty much instantaneously. So you wake up from the surgery, and all of a sudden your leg looks smaller than it did like it going into the surgery a few hours ago. It's really strange, and that process of building up the muscle takes a bit of time again, and also because the new ACL is fixed into the bone, it's drilled in with pins, and there's a lot of bruising happening around the joint and the bone area, because it's pretty brutal on the whole area of the knee. So there's still like there's what you call bony bruising. So yeah, the bony bruising stays around for up to a year, so it affects the joint. Can be sensitive for a while, because it's quite a brutal operation where screws are drilled into your bone, and the whole, just for the joint to fully heal up, can take some time.
And you're 5 months post surgery now. How close to 100% recovered are you? And well, in fact, can you actually be 100% recovered?
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of work. A lot of people don't get there, but so it takes most people over a year to get back to what they would say is 100%. Some people say they don't get back to 100%, but I think because I've learned a lot more about training and how to structure training and the sort of training that I need to do as a skier and as an alpinist, I've definitely learned a lot. I think I'll be able to come back stronger because of what I've learned about my body and training methods. But most people say their first ski season back, they definitely don't feel 100%. Although a lot of skiers I know have been able to have a very good ski season. It's usually the second season post surgery that people feel like they're really back, and they don't think about it at all.
I remember when you told me about your ACL, I thought it must be doubly tough for you, because what people don't know who don't know you or haven't met you is that you're an all-action guy. You're always moving, training. What's been the hardest element of not being physically active for you?
Well, the hardest element is not being able to do what I want, which is, over the winter was to go skiing, and over the summer has been to get in the mountains. But I've been from 2 days post surgery, I was able to start training. And again, my knees, limited amount of training I've been able to do, but then I've had more time to do core upper body training. So, I started doing core and upper body circuits 2 days after the surgery, and I started exercise biking on my one good leg before I could start exercise biking on both legs. And I did that about a couple of days after the surgery. So there's been, and then a lot of massaging, a lot of stretching. So it's all the rehab and exercise has taken quite a lot of time. But at the same time, I haven't been able to, initially, I wasn't able to really, even go biking or go hiking. And now I can do those things, but I still can't, go do a big alpine route or go run for 2 hours. Or so it's just frustrating not being able to, having limitations on what you can do.
Do you miss it like you thought you would? Is being denied what you love doing as you thought it would be?
Yeah, I think it's made me hungrier and more focused, and I think I'll come back very hungry and focused. I think what would be very tough is if I couldn't train, and training's been a great outlet, and I've always enjoyed training, and I've been able to really focus my energies on putting a lot of time and effort into training, whether it's doing weights for my legs in the gym, or doing some hiking or some climbing training. There's been a lot I've been able to do, but not being able to guide has been hard. I guess the not working and not being able to do what I usually do in the mountains, it definitely leaves you sometimes without a sense of purpose. And it's my life and my identity and what I do. So that has been hard for sure.
Have you struggled with it psychologically? I think that identity thing is quite big. Being a climber, a guide, a skier is, I get the impression, what you are rather than what you do.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I think that for a lot of people, it's work's important for all of us. And although guiding is one part of my life, it's not all my life, and it's just not being able to work and not having that sense of purpose or productivity has been hard as well. Um, so I've had to and I've had things to focus on as well, with spending extra time with my son and with family, which has been great. I think I would have found it harder without that. But for sure, it's like my identity as a skier and climber and guide. It's I guess the thing is, I know that there is an end to it, and that if I work hard now, there will be a good outcome. Which is really fortunate position to be in, because I have friends who have had genuinely life-changing injuries, and they'll never be the same, which I think is a lot harder to deal with psychologically.
As far as your lack of work goes, has it made you think about doing other things, or have you really doubled down and decided, yeah, this is what I want to do?
I'd say, yeah, more towards definitely doubling down and really realizing that is what I want to do. That I love my work, and I love being in the mountains a lot, and it has made me realize that probably more. So I've just put a lot of energy into the rehab, and I took some extra French lessons, and I found other things to do, and I'm learning how to edit video a bit, but I don't think I've been all that successful at times at taking on a totally different focus on a different sort of work. I've realized that yeah, I just need to make sure that I'm possible to do everything in my power not to get injured again.
Why do you think you've not been gripped by anything else? Is it because you feel like you've already found your passion in life, and maybe you're not genuinely, really, you're not deep down looking for another?
Yeah, no, good question. Well, I'm always open for new experiences, but I've realized that being a guide and an athlete is really what I'm most passionate about, and um, it's made me realize how much I value that, and that I'm going to do everything I can to sure I come back successfully from this. I'd rather go all into this path than to my bets on other paths. And I know it's kind of risky, because if I sustain a worse injury, or if I'm my lifestyle, my livelihood is totally dependent on my body, but that doesn't really phase me. I'd rather just focus all my energies onto having the best guiding career and having the best skiing and climbing career that I can, and becoming the strongest I can be, and just minimizing the risk of injury. And I feel confident that I can do that.
So, what have you done to minimize the possibility of future injury?
Well, it's just going to take more focused and smart training going forward. And also, in hindsight, I could have been skiing a bit more cleverly, and also I could have probably been training in a smarter, more useful way as well. I've always trained a lot, but it hasn't necessarily been based on a sound structure or on a very scientific approach. And I think with what I've learned now, I can definitely um, be make sure that everything in my body is working better than it ever has before.
And if I ask the people around you what the last 6 months has been like, what do you think they'd say?
Depends who you ask. If you ask Johanna, my girlfriend, she'd probably say full of plenty of complaining and moaning, and um, yeah, it's definitely it's been hard at times for sure, but I've been really grateful that I've had a lot of support from people close to me, and also that it's been a good learning experience for me in a lot of ways. Also, that I'm very lucky that I know that I'll be able to that it's finite whether it's 6 months, 9 months, or a year. I know that at some point I'm going to be where I want to be. Even if even if this ski season I have to take it a little bit easy at first, I know that if I'm smart and I apply myself, I'm not going to have problems in the long term.
And what's been the basis of that whinging? What is your typical rant?
Just pure frustration that oh God, that when I injured myself, I was in good shape. I was strong. I was fit. I was skiing a lot. I felt like I was skiing pretty well. I'd done a lot of training leading up to it in just November, December. I was in the gym quite a bit. I was squatting and deadlifting more than I had in a while, and I was feeling like everything was really strong. I think it actually led to a sense of overconfidence in how and what I could get away with skiing. I've been able to look around at people who have gone through the same injury and come back strong, or from people who have gone through worse injuries and draw strength from that and see that there is a path to strong recovery, or seeing people deal with it seem to have a very strong mental approach to worse injuries. So I've been able to, luckily have the support of close friends who have been through what I've been through and understand, and that's been really really helpful. Also, just keeping myself busy and having training as an outlet and just spending hours rehabbing and training.
And how do you bring yourself back to positivity?
I'd say just have faith that there's an end to all. Suffering will come to an end, and that there's a very proven process for the recovery. It just takes some time and dedication. I would say that what I found, some things I feel like I've done well with the recovery, some things I haven't done so well. I would say that if I could have been a little more mentally focused and productive at times, instead of kind of wallowing in my frustration, I felt like maybe that I had scope for instead of for using my time more wisely to come up with a different creative project, or to spend more time learning a language, or to educate myself in a different way. If I could have, and I found it hard, the lack of structure in my life, and although I've always been good and disciplined with training, I found it hard to kind of redirect my energy into a focused project or to structure like my life when suddenly I was left with no structure. So I'd say that if you can work out a way to do that, then things will go more smoothly. But what I've found, which was really helpful, is that I had a strong background of training, and if you've never really focused on strength training, or training as an athlete, and really have an idea of how to structure like endurance, whatever your sport is, you're going to need to rebuild strength in your legs, and also make sure that everything in your body is aligned.
Okay, so people might be listening to this with a serious injury. So if you could go and take yourself to when you first had surgery, what would you say?
Built into my life were a lot of like many years of good discipline and habits with training, which helped a lot. So I didn't have to just like learn how to train from scratch. I already knew how to train, or already had that discipline, but I just had to fine tune it and structure it better. Also, it's so important to have supportive people around you, and you really can't go through it on your own. Whether it's parents looking after you for a bit, or it's friends coming by to see how you're doing, People have been through the same thing. You need a very good and supportive physio, maybe a strength coach, maybe someone who can offer some mental coaching or psychological help or whatever you have. Like there's you need to have that support network around you before you need it. So if I'd say just you never know what's going to happen in your life. So make sure that you build these relationships and you maintain them with people, and make sure you're surrounded by people who are close to you and can help you out and have your back if something goes wrong in your life.
And if you had your time again, could you pinpoint why you weren't as productive in other areas as you wanted to be?
It took me a while to work these things out. I feel like, towards the latter stages of my rehab, I've been able to figure out ways to be productive, but it definitely it didn't come naturally at first. And I'd say that for someone who they're off work and doesn't have necessarily and feels like they have a lot of time, uh, I'd say sign up for classes if you can. Like, just make sure that you have commitments to go to and some like inbuilt structure.
All right, Tom, I'll let you go. Really appreciate your time for the second time, and let's make sure we get out for a ski when that knee's better.
Yeah, cool. Definitely, I'd love to get out for a ski with you this winter. Absolutely.
That's all from us this time, but we've got a lot more to come on the podcast, so please subscribe on iTunes, and if you've got a free minute, leave us a review and tell us what you think about the show. If you want to know more about Tom and see some pretty epic pictures in the process, check out his Instagram at Tom_Grant_ and his website tomgrant.guide. Thanks for listening. Speak to you next time.